Hello YouTube world, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I want to share with you a few things that you should know before visiting Zanzibar, and specifically the Pemba Island, because what most people don't know is that Zanzibar, the name Zanzibar comprises of two main islands, and that's Unguja and Pemba. For some reason, like the two islands are very similar and very different at the same time, like because Unguja is a bit more like out there, it's a bit more modernized and stuff like that, but Pemba Island is still a bit more conservative, even though they're both under Zanzibar and they're both very beautiful and stuff like that, but they're very different also. So just be warned and be prepared and know exactly where you're going. So let me get into the video for the things you should watch out for before you visit Zanzibar. So the first thing you should know is that most hotels in Pemba would require you to have a marriage certificate to get a room in hotels if you are not sleep with your partner. If it's a boyfriend or something else, they really don't recognize that partnership if you don't have a certificate. So if you're sharing a room with your boyfriend or anyone of like a different gender, you need to have a marriage certificate to be able to share a room in Pemba. Unless otherwise, the hotel will force you to take two separate rooms because the laws of the country do not allow unmarried people to share rooms. So most hotels are implementing that, and it's quite interesting because yeah, it's quite interesting because this is like 2025 and they still need a marriage certificate for you to be able to share a room with your boyfriend or like any other different gender person who you're like traveling with or like associated with. I came to realize later that there's just one hotel in like the whole island that like makes exception for like boyfriend and girlfriend, but you still have to show some proof that you guys are dating, and that's the Chake Hotel in Pemba. I lastly heard that the Chake can let you in to stay if you're just like boyfriend and girlfriend, but even though you still have to show some proof, and in some cases you'll be required to pay extra if you don't have a certificate because they want a certificate for you to get the couple's room. The second thing you should know before visiting Pemba is that in most of the islands, you can find alcohol anywhere. There is really no alcohol, and like, it's very rare that you see locals in that area like consuming alcohol publicly. So the best ways to get alcohol in the island is either you come with it when you're traveling, like come with your own alcohol packed, and then you can have it in your hotel or something. Or there is like one place which is like a military base that they have alcohol, and that place only has alcohol because it's a military base and alcohol was meant to be consumed by the soldiers, but then everyone else who goes there and realize there's no alcohol anywhere in the island, they end up going to the military base to get alcohol. So there is no alcohol anywhere in the island except in the military base. And for Pemba specifically, even some hotels don't have alcohol, so it depends on the hotel that you're staying, but some hotels also don't have alcohol in their hotels. Like the big hotels I'm speaking about, they don't have alcohol in the hotel, but there are like very few that have alcohol in the hotels for their guests. So it's a hit or miss. To be safe, if you really want your alcohol, better have something like as a backup plan when you're in Pemba. The third thing you should know is because Pemba and Unguja are both islands in the same place, like they're both, it's the unicorn that is called Zanzibar. So for like foreigners, the Zanzibar insurance that you get when you're entering Unguja is the same one that you could use for Pemba. And that insurance is usually valid for like 3 months. So you don't have to get like a new insurance to travel to Pemba if you've already paid the insurance to Unguja, because yeah, I've had people like worrying about the insurance stuff, but it's the same insurance that you use for Unguja that you could also use it to go to Pemba. Another thing you should know is that for some reason I feel like Pemba has more forest than beaches. Like it's an island, yes, but it's very much underdeveloped, that you could feel like there's more forest than beaches because there are a lot of areas that could have been, that are potential, not could have been, they're actually very potential, but they're still very much like uncultivated. They're still very much underdeveloped. So if you're going around, you're gonna see a lot more forests and like junk trees than beaches. But once you see a beach, it's gonna be like worth the wait, because so the best beaches are like in the farther north, and they're the best beaches. They're the best beaches. I think even Unguja does not have as beautiful beaches as Pemba, because most of the beaches in Pemba are like untouched, so they're like the best. So if you go like farther north, you see like a lot of beaches, and the beaches are like worth the journey basically. But yeah, we're making fun about it. Me and my friend are like, oh, we thought we were coming to an island because now we're seeing more trees than water. Because when you think about island lifestyle, you just think about people walking around in bikinis, like light clothing and stuff like that, water everywhere, beaches everywhere. But we went to Pemba and it was like everyone is properly clothed, face, because it's an Islamic island, so like everyone is properly clothed, like they have their niqab and stuff like that, and there's even like minimal beaches around. Like, for the first few days, it took us a lot to like adjust the fact that we're on an island which doesn't feel like an island. So until we go to the north and they're like, now it's an island, like because the north is like worth everything. The north is beautiful, but everywhere else is like, yeah. Another thing you should know about Pemba is that the rainy season is very rainy. It's very rainy. Like, ah, even in Unguja sometimes, even when it's rainy season, it could just like rain in the morning and then in the midday you could have some sun and then at night maybe you have a sunset and then when you're going to sleep it goes to rain. Like that's how rain season usually is in Unguja. Like it's not that heavily raining. It usually has some windows of sun where you could like still do some activities outside. But the rain season in Pemba, it leaves no room to explore anything. Like it's very rainy. It's annoying even. So just avoid the rain season in Pemba because it's the worst. So be warned. You should know in Pemba. So there are two ways to reach Pemba. You could either take a flight from either Unguja or Dar es Salaam, or you could even take a ferry from either way, like from Dar es Salaam or from Unguja. But be warned that the ferry is very rough. Like most people usually take ferries from like Dar es Salaam to Unguja, and the ferry is usually like a bit smooth. Like it's very smooth, like 1 hour ferry drive and stuff. But the ferry from Unguja to Pemba, it's very rough because apparently you're going against the waves. Also, the currents on that side going to Pemba, they're a bit more heavy. So you're signing up for like a very bumpy ride, but it's not that long. It's similar. It's like 1 hour and a half, 2 hours, but just know that it's gonna be very bumpy because that side has a lot more waves. So the boat is literally fighting against like very high currents. So you know. And the flights, you could also take a flight to Pemba, but the flights to Pemba are very expensive compared to flights to Unguja because Pemba is like still very underdeveloped, so there are not that many people going to Pemba, and because of that, the flights are a bit expensive because even the flights are not like always full. So I think the airlines are trying to compensate for the fact that very few people are going there, and they still have to incur the cost to maintain the flights and stuff like that. So even the fare for the flights is a bit like steep compared to the fare that you pay to go to Unguja. So the choice is yours. Either you like overpay or you tolerate for the 2 hours for a bumpy ride. Another fact you should know about Pemba is that accommodation is very expensive. Like either you're taking an hotel or you're finding like a hostel or an Airbnb, it's very expensive. First, there is no hostels in Pemba, but even like the Airbnbs or like the small guest house that was supposed to be affordable, they're not that affordable. For instance, I remember the first few days we stayed at a very like okay accommodation, but we paid like twice the price we would have paid for a similar place in Unguja. It's just crazy. So you need to be aware of that. The accommodation in Pemba is very high, like it's very steep. And it's funny because that place does not have that many people. So I think they're compensating for the fact that very rare people go there. So the prices are still very high compared to like Unguja, which is a bit unreasonable, but we're living with it. So I'm curious to know if any of you have been to Unguja and what are like the facts that you had learned about the place that sort of like shocked you or like made you see it in a different light. I'd like to know about it all in the comments down below. And that's it for this video. Until next time, adios.